Hello, welcome to new curriculum 30-minute bite-sized boost, 6 recorded lunchtime sessions for K-6 teachers. My name is Cheryl Babin. I'm a designer of professional learning at the Calgary Regional Consortium. We are very happy to have you here today, and if you're coming in with the recording, feel free to put it on double time. We know that your time is tight and that you are working to juggle very many things. So here is our first session. Beginning, of course, with a land acknowledgement. Today, I would just like to take a moment and let you know that we're coming to you from a sacred place within Treaty 7, the traditional territories of the Nitsapi and where the Blackfoot Confederacy, including the Siksika, Piikani, and Kainai nations, the Ihari Nakota of Chiniki, Bearspaw, and Wesley nations, the Dene of the Tsuut'ina Nation. Southern Alberta is also home to the Métis Nation of Alberta, Region 3. We know that Calgary is located where the Bow River meets the Elbow River, and this site has long been called Mohkinstsis by the Blackfoot, as well as Wichtspa by the Nakota and Gutsisi by the Tsuut'ina. And thank you for gathering here in the heart of Treaty 7 territory as we acknowledge that we have an ongoing responsibility to protect and honor all of the life within our shared reality as treaty people. All of our work that we do at the CRC leans into the First Peoples principles of learning. And today I wanted to highlight a certain aspect of this document, which is sourced for you on the slide. And it's one of the principles that we are considering today is how learning is holistic, reflexive, reflective, experiential, and relational, focused on connectedness and reciprocal relationships and a sense of place. And to that end, we always want to think about how we can embrace Indigenous ways of knowing and doing when considering our support for students as we implement curriculum. Now, today's session is all about making the new LearnAlberta site work for you. And so the gist of what we're going to accomplish in our time together is to look at some top tricks for navigating and using new LearnAlberta. One of the aspects of that is the search function, which I can tell you it's where it's at. And also we'll take a look at the architecture of the curriculum because it really matters in our work. You're welcome to take a copy of the slides with you. There's a link, a bit.ly link there. It's bit.ly/takeabite1, and it's the first session in our series. If you'd like to run it on your phone or on an iPad beside you, you can also scan the QR code there. Tip number 1. The very first thing that I would recommend for all of you, if you haven't already done that, is to please take the time to create a new account with LearnAlberta and log in. And so it's easy to access when with the website curriculum.learnalberta.ca. It doesn't actually include the word new anymore, but I am still using that to differentiate between the LearnAlberta site that you used to have access to prior to this one being formed. And so what I would like to show you is that the login site in the top right-hand corner is essential to being able to open up some of the additional features. You can access the curriculum in New LearnAlberta without it, and it's possible to do that, but it is limiting in terms of the extra things that you will want to be able to access within New LearnAlberta. When you go through, you may have a little indicator underneath your login that says request teacher access. If you see that, please click on the button and it will ask you for your certification number. So take a few minutes to dig that out of your files and put that certification number in, because it will automatically send a message to someone within your administration who will approve that, and then you will have full access. If you have any trouble at all, use this Contact Us button in the very bottom corner. I've had to reach out to LearnAlberta a couple of times with questions about login access for teachers and pre-service teachers. And honestly, they have been amazing. So they responded to my email right away that day, and they stayed with me until the problem was completely solved. So I would really recommend that you take the time to do that. And so that is the first tip I'd like to share with you. The second tip is, I'm going to turn this part off here so that we can see a little bit more. Now, the second tip that I would like to share with you is multiple ways for multiple minds. And now, what I mean by that is that there's a couple of different ways to get into the curriculum and into the documents within New Learn Alberta. And I want to show you how they are. One view is here, and another one is when you're already inside. So clicking into New Learn Alberta, this is the home page. And what I'd like to show you is that this blue tile here is one way to access the actual curriculum documents. And this homepage is equipped with recent announcements, such as you can go into the resource section to find Mathology Little Books, which are now available. But you can also access the resources here, the Provincial Assessment Hub, which is for all of the literacy and numeracy screenings and assessments that we need. Also, the Curriculum Implementation Information Hub. This section is supporting us with tools and documents that I will point out to you today. In addition, you'll see the e-tutoring hub, the boards, which is, we have a whole section, our next part 2 of the 30-minute bite-sized boost is all about boards, and also into the student learning hub. So one way that you can access all of these features is from the home page. The second way is if you go into the curriculum like that, you can see down this left-hand side on this gray menu bar, we also have access to all of those features at the same time. So 2 ways to get to the same place, which I think is an asset to those of us as we're working through and trying to navigate those things. Tip number 3, subject-specific overviews. Sometimes I hear from teachers that they're wondering, where is the front matter for the curriculum? And I wonder if Alberta Education is producing the year-at-a-glance documents for each grade level. Well, the tip I'd like to share with you here is that these things are both included in the subject-specific overviews. So again, there's 2 ways to get at them. I'll show you both ways here from the homepage of New Learn Alberta. You can go to right into the curriculum like this, and then you can go to the Curriculum Implementation Information Hub. When you go into this section here, it offers links for parents and guardians, and also for school authorities, school leaders, and teachers. What I would recommend, and if you click on them, you can see how it expands the possibilities in the tiles or closes them up. And so parents have access to some of these pieces. When you log in with your teacher access, you have more tiles available to you. So the one I want to show you in this section is actually within both parents and teachers, but I'd like to show you here the subject-specific overviews. This allows a screen to scooch across the view for us. And within here, this section, we have the 3 areas of curricula that are currently being implemented by your schools. We have resources for English, language, arts, and literature, math, and physical education and wellness, as well as French immersion language literature overview. You'll also see the K-6 science overview. It's included because we do have some schools piloting the K-6 science. So when you open up one of these pieces, what you will find is a list of, it's a 4-page document. I'm just going to enlarge it a little bit so that you can see. And this subject overview will provide you with an overview of the subject itself and why we include it in our curriculum. The second section is called Shifts in K-6 Mathematics. This is some bullet points that talk about shifts that identify differences from the previous curriculum to this current curriculum. And so, or to the new curriculum. And so you can see in this mathematics one that it's talking about general shifts that have occurred within different organizing ideas or facets of the curriculum. As we keep scrolling down, and here's an example, you can see that financial literacy has been an additional piece that's been added into this curriculum. Here's the part that many teachers have been glad to find as well. The snapshot of what K-6 math looks like. So it's in a different format from the previous kind of a year at a glance, that was given to parents. What is your kindergarten child going to learn this year? And so in this section here, it does provide a grade level and several bullets that summarize the number and operations, measurement, geometry, algebra, and statistics, all within those topics within the subject. And this will go all the way to grade 6. So many teachers have been glad to have that. They've used it at curriculum nights or in discussions with parents who have questions about the curriculum, and just to give you that overview. So that is one piece there. I'm watching the chat, and we'll just pause to see if there's any questions so far from our group, from our participants that are here with me live. Everybody okay? Thank you. All right. Tip number 4, a better way to print. This one has been, I've actually heard people say, yes, thank you. This is exactly what I needed. So I hope that this will help you. There's 2 ways to access printable documents. And when you go into your new LearnAlberta, I'm just going to bring you back out to the home section here. And when you go into the curriculum using this tile, and then you go down the left-hand side, you will see a printable curriculum button. This is the one that we often see first. And what this will do is it will give you an entire one PDF for kindergarten to grade 6, the entire English language arts and literature curriculum. A subject introduction would be a different PDF. And so this box here is just pointing to those 2 aspects of the curriculum. And you can see that it's available for each subject. This is useful if you want to have all subjects and all of the learning outcomes for all of the grades. If you're a classroom teacher, some people have expressed that this sometimes feels a bit overwhelming. So we have a better way to do that. If you go back into your curriculum and choose an aspect of a subject that you want to look into, okay, let's say that you are a phys ed specialist, or perhaps you are a classroom teacher and you're looking at grade 4 physical education and wellness. Once you're into a subject and you have your grade panels out, or you click into a certain grade, you will see in the top right-hand corner a tiny little printer icon. This little printer icon has a lot of power. It offers you an option for what you would like to print. You can select curriculum or subject introduction, either one, and then you click on next, and you can decide which components you would like to print. If you would like to have the guiding questions, it's sort of scaffolds so that if you can remove them from the bottom, but not necessarily from the top. So you can select all or unselect all. Let's just say we want to have just the learning outcomes for one particular grade. And then you click on next, and you can select the grade that you would like. Then click generate a PDF. That will produce a document that, now this one is only 2 pages long, and I know the color coding is a little dense, but basically what you see here is the organizing idea, guiding question, and the lightest gray has the learning outcome right in here. So then you can see that there are only 2, 4, 11 learning outcomes for grade 4 physical education and wellness. And those learning outcomes are the overarching outcomes that incorporate the cusps, or the knowledge, understanding, skills, and procedures that we are expected to assess and report out on. So these are the learning outcomes that are there for you. If you wanted to click into it and have all of the knowledge, skills, and understandings and procedures in, you can include that as well. And it does give you the flexibility to select. So I had one teacher who was a grade 2 teacher, and she wanted to see what grade 1 and grade 3 would look like. And so when you print out something like that, it gives you, here you see grade 1, and here's grade 3. So that helps to meet the needs of students in terms of knowing where they're coming from and where they have to go. And as we're learning new curriculum, this can be really helpful. This document is a little bit longer with the cusps included in there. That's the acronym for knowledge, understanding, skills, and procedures. So I hope that view of printing is also quite helpful. Any questions about that? Okay, thank you. Let's go to tip number 5, flyouts. I love the flyouts. I like to say hover and then click. And so let me show you what I mean. When we get to a learning outcome, there is, and you hover over the green box of the learning outcome, you will see that a share arrow, so that rectangle with the arrow appears, and also a little eye in a circle, which often means information. Well, when you click on that eye, it gives you what's called a flyout. And this is a wonderful spot to be able to show you how many things are connected. And so when I'm looking at this view right now, the learning outcome is green. And when I hover over it, these additional features show up. And so if I click on this little eye, the flyout will appear. And this piece is also maneuverable. You will see that it begins with the organizing idea, the guiding question, and a learning outcome. If you keep scrolling down, you can see that you can toggle between these 5 aspects. The first category, or the first column or option, is the cusps, the knowledge, understanding, and skills and procedures. You can scroll down in a nice, visibly accessible way. You can see all of the pieces of the outcomes, the cusps within this particular one. So for students to examine how choices in physical activities affects active living, these are the knowledge components that we need to address. These are the skills and procedures on the right-hand side, and those together form the understanding that we need to be able to assess when we report out on this learning outcome. The other aspect of this flyout that I find really useful is that from this knowledge and understanding section, you can click on the resources. This will automatically pull up any of the resources from the new LearnAlberta resource section that have been previously tagged to connect with this learning outcome. And so because this outcome is in grade 4, it also is sometimes relevant with other grade levels. And so all of these resources have been tagged for you. Sometimes they're websites, sometimes they're active games, and sometimes they're resources that you can purchase in your school or ask about in your networked community. And so that resource section is available for you. The competency progressions are also there. And so we haven't stopped thinking about critical thinking and managing information, collaborating. And so for each of these learning outcomes, a section of the competencies have been identified to help us use this language to coach students through the development of those particular competencies. So for example, I know this is a little bit small, but it says for critical thinking, I pose questions to analyze information or evidence. That particular competency is suitable to Division 2, and it aligns perfectly with this learning outcome. Literacy progressions, so looking at the ways that we incorporate literacy as a holistic approach, identifying and describing challenges and regulating their learning. These statements are also included with numeracy progressions. And so we are really able to take a transdisciplinary approach to that learning. And so that is the flyout, and they are provided for each of the green learning outcomes as you go. The next piece I'd like to share, tip number 5, the bridging documents. So when you go into that curriculum information, the curriculum implementation information hub, back into the school leaders and teachers, signed in, you can see the bridging documents. And so let me just walk you through how to get there from here. Clicking again on our teachers and then into bridging documents. These documents are available for ELAL, math, and physical education and wellness. And the intention of these is to provide a little bit of a bridge to help us support the changes that have been that are occurring with a shift from one grade in a previous curriculum to the next grade in the new curriculum. So here's an example. Previous math curriculum from grade 1 asked students to learn to work with numbers up to 20 in a variety of ways. The new math curriculum in grade 2 asks students to analyze quantity to 1,000. Here are a couple of bullets and pieces of information that can set your thinking in terms of how you might help to bridge that. And for that particular example, we really want to lean into developing that conceptual understanding of number sense and place value so that the detailed knowledge of quantities can continue to grow and develop using words, numerals, objects, and pictures. And so those bridging documents are available for you if that is a useful tool. The search function. Now, this tiny little magnifying glass at the top is tiny and yet very powerful. Let's pop back into this particular, you'll see it exists all the time. That search function is ready and good to go. So if I click on this search, gives me an open box. I want to look at the concept of money because I've had lots of conversations with teachers about financial literacy. So if I type in money and hit enter, 53 results will show up in my search criteria. But I want to show you something interesting about this. I haven't used the filters to specify any grades, subjects, or the inclusion of resources, curriculums, or boards. And so you can narrow your search to see what that looks like. But let's just say that we were looking at where does money occur in the curriculum. And so it shows up here in math. It shows up in this grade 2 guiding question from physical education and wellness. And you see these icons here. It also tells us what kind of source this is coming from. So here's a kindergarten exploration, the learning outcome is children explore money. And then you can click right onto this one here, and it will zoom you right into that spot in the curriculum where then you can access the flyout or the cusps. Okay, and so this particular search has a lot of power. If we look at a concept like identity, for example, you can use a broad search to find out what you need at first, or you can just specify a particular grade level and it will help to narrow the focus. So definitely use that search to help you make sense of new curriculum into old. Any questions so far? I feel like I'm talking fast, but lunchtime is quick. We know that, right? So next, I just wanted to share in summarizing our 30-minute bite-sized boost today, that the architecture for the new curriculum really matters. And the reason that I'm saying that is that as I learn more about the nuances of the learning outcomes and the relationship with the guiding questions and organizing ideas, these parts of the curriculum really help us to frame that conceptual understanding so that the knowledge and the skills have a place to live and they have a place to be used and to transfer to the real world and to other learning. So this is the way that it works. The organizing ideas are those logical categories. We've heard them described as the chapters in a book. And they produce the statements of learning, and they begin with the end in mind. So that backwards approach to planning still is relevant when we think about how do we design learning for our students. Guiding questions. These questions are provided in connection to each learning outcome, and they are raised to provoke higher order thinking, such as analysis, inference, evaluation, and prediction. And sometimes you'll notice that they include debatable questions where we can engage students in asking their opinions and getting them to support their ideas with evidence or with learning that they have endured so far. It talks about the relationship between different parts, and it helps to open up the facts and put them into a context that can make meaning of that. So the guiding questions, they can also be clustered with other learning outcomes, and you can create overarching guiding questions from those pieces, because we know that we don't often do a full unit on one learning outcome, but we want to be able to link those pieces in together. The learning outcomes are what the students are required to know, understand, and be able to do by the end of a grade. I'm just going to pause on that and say that again. The learning outcomes are meant for the end of the grade. These are the components that we must assess and report on, and they are subject specific. They often will include one or more concepts, but please understand that as we go through the learning outcomes, they're often called cusps, and the learning outcomes are supported by all of those individual pieces. So the knowledge is meant to let us know what students need to know. The skills and procedures, jumping over, helps us know what students can do, what they can demonstrate, and then understanding gives significance to those pieces working together in demonstration of the learning outcome. Last piece before you run to fill up your water bottle for the afternoon is that I want to share optional versus required content. So when you are looking in the outcomes, sometimes you'll see language examples that say such as or for example. When you see such as or for example, please know that that is an optional component that you can consider. Here's an example. Multiplication can be interpreted in various ways according to context, such as equal groups, an array, or an area. You can look at each of those and decide which ones work for your students and for your context. For example, is another one that you can decide what you want to implement from there. If a cusp says including, it's not optional. That's what is required to include in terms of how we design and unpack that curriculum. An example of that is components of physical fitness include muscular strength, flexibility, cardiorespiratory endurance, and muscular endurance. All of those pieces are included and they must be addressed within that cusp, within that learning outcome. If something is in brackets, it's meant for us as teachers. So an example here, words are made up of sounds, but the actual word phonemes is in brackets, so we know what that's referring to. We don't need students to actually know that that is called a phoneme. So those are some of the tips that I wanted to share with you today. And so as we wrap up, I just want to let you know that I'm open to any questions that you have about how to make new LearnAlberta work for you. That was a very quick snapshot, and you can reach out anytime. Our team is here to help. And so thank you for attending or watching the video. We'll see you next week for session number 2, which is all about boards.